Hey everybody, what is up? Welcome back to Final Trade. We're going to take our monthly look at Flesh and Blood sales data off of TCG Player, this time for July of 2024, month number 31. And as normal, I've got this pulled out to 2 months on the horizontal axis, so we're looking at June and July. Really interesting here when we bring up Welcome to Wraith, Arcane, Rising, and Crucible of War Unlimited. We see that there have been a lot of people coming in here and just buying a lot of boxes of these three this month. In fact, the blue line of Welcome to Wraith, this was 65 boxes purchased on one day, and that was made up of 16 4-box cases that somebody just purchased at one time on there. So I went back and I checked the raw data on TCG Player just to confirm everything was correct. And yes, it looks like some people are basically affecting some minor buyouts of these early products. Another interesting thing that I'm noticing is that the case prices of this first block of unlimited boxes are starting to really diverge from the equal number of single boxes. So if you bought 4 single boxes, what would the price be? And if you bought a 4-box case, what would the price be? And what you're starting to see is that case price is really pulling away from the 4 individual box prices. And especially when someone comes in and buys 16 cases of Welcome to Wraith on one day. Pulling up the month over month table, of course, this is going to be June box sales total, July box sales total, and the month over month percent difference between them. The average sale price in June, the average sale price in July, and the month over month difference in that. And then multiplying those together to get the revenue and the month over month change in revenue. And so you can see with these kind of minor buyouts going on, a 400% increase in Welcome to Wraith Unlimited box sales in July over June, 180% increase of Arcane Rising in July over June, and an 80%, a very slight 80% increase of Crucible of War Unlimited box sales in July over June. Prices were very flat, of course, only 5% move upwards on Welcome to Wraith Unlimited box prices, even with somebody coming in and purchasing 64 boxes in one fell swoop. So if we move on to Monarch First Edition, Tales of Aria First Edition, and Everfest First Edition, pulling those data up, you can see back in June, we had a very, very large movement of Tales of Aria, but it was not replicated in July. So what we're going to see on the month-over-month table is basically a huge slowdown in Tales of Aria. And what that looks like is this minus 81% in July compared to June, when 260 boxes sold. Monarch First Edition still chugging along, 40 boxes a month for the last 2 months. And the prices of these three all staying relatively flat, plus or minus 4 or 5%. Nothing really interesting in the pricing going on there. Moving on to History Pack Volume 1, we always take a look at that, and we can see that even over a 2-month period, it only sold 35 total boxes, a very slow seller. And we'll see on the month-over-month table, 18 of those in June, 17 in July, and no price change. Coming into Flesh and Blood 2.0, Uprising, Dynasty, and Outsiders. And again, we saw some of those big ticks upwards in June and a little bit of that kind of thing in July, but we'll have to see what the exact numbers are. 100% increase in Uprising sales, but it's off of this low base of 12 boxes in June, so it's really not as interesting as it would first appear when you see this plus 100% number. Dynasty flat for the month, 36 in June, 37 in July, and Outsiders down by nearly half in July from June. Now, month-over-month prices minus 16% in Uprising. It's very interesting that the box sales doubled, and even if you want to discount and you say, well, they were about the same, 24 is not much different than 12, the box price still fell 16% in the month. Dynasty and Outsiders prices essentially flat, minus 5, minus 2%. The next block, Fab 2.0, Dusk Till Dawn, Bright Lights, and Heavy Hitters. And on the month-over-month table, minus 11%, so not much of a change in sales rate for Dusk Till Dawn in July from June. 5% increase, which is only 2 boxes different in Bright Lights. And Heavy Hitters cut in half, 50 boxes in June, 26 in July. Again, prices essentially flat, minus 2, minus 5%. Now, part the Mist Veil. We're going to put this up here, and it was released, I believe, May 31st was the day. And so June was the first full month of sales, 474 boxes, and then July would have started trailing off. So 161 boxes, which compared to anything else on this list is really good. Still is a 66% drop from June. And the box price, minus 8%, as it kind of finds that minimum advertised price that Legend Story Studios attempts to enforce. Now, we're going to come over here and we're going to put the last 4 releases, and we're going to line the horizontal axis up as days since release. And on this cumulative spend plot down here in the lower left, what you've got on top is the blue line of Dusk Till Dawn. The purple line of Part the Mist Veil below that is the yellow line of Heavy Hitters, and down in the lower spot is the red line of Bright Lights. And so in here on the legend is the order in which they were released. And so you can see this kind of high watermark of Dusk Till Dawn, followed by the huge drop of Bright Lights, and then it's climbed back up to the yellow line of Heavy Hitters, and it's improved even more with Part the Mist Veil. The other interesting thing is that Part the Mist Veil managed to cross over. You don't see that a whole lot after release day. Products don't typically cross over each other on these cumulative spend plots, but Part the Mist Veil managed to do that. So the last 3 releases have all been climbing upwards. They're still below the previous release before those, Dusk Till Dawn. So we'll hope to continue seeing that kind of improvement. The numbers that I'm seeing month to month, they don't excite me, they don't worry me. So it looks pretty good. And let me get this back to, there we go, back to this weird buyout activity on these first block boxes. Welcome to Wraith, Arcane Rising, and Crucible of War Unlimited. You know, you had to understand that at some point people would see these prices and say they've been too low for too long, and you would start seeing some heavy moves into them. There have been some in previous months before this too. So at some point these will start drying up even more. It's interesting. I've been taking these data from TCG Player for 31 months now. And when I go look at the long-term data, what are the total number of boxes of these that have sold in 31 months on TCG Player, and compare that to the total print run numbers released by LSS? Well, those are some very interesting data. Let me know what you think, guys. Thanks to everyone who makes this content possible, especially those generous supporters on Patreon. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and join me on Final Trade.